Hey y'all, Callist here. I'm going to give you my quick rant on the Cutlass steel. I'm going to make this quick, but I'm also going to make this pretty much opposite of everything that I've heard because I take the opinion that the Cutlass steel is not uh, crazy overpriced. Um, it came in a little bit higher than I expected, but not too much. And I don't think it's overpriced. So let me explain why. Like I said, I'll keep this really quick and easy. Everybody loves a Cutlass Black. Cutlass Black and Avenger Titan are basically your stepping stones in Star Citizen. A lot of people say, get your starter ship, upgrade it to an Avenger Titan. If you want to upgrade a little bit more, upgrade it to a Cutlass Black. Really, once you're at the Avenger Titan Cutlass Black range, you can pretty much do, all the starter, scenarios in the game. You've got a good money maker ship. You're good to go. These things are intentionally, gameplay wise, kept cheap. They're cheap in game to buy, they're cheap in game to upgrade to, they're cheap real money to buy, they're cheap real money to upgrade to. Why? Because people like that. People want to have something that gives them a little bit more than the starter ship. And CIG likes making a little bit more money. So if they can sell you an Aurora or a Mustang and you can upgrade it to a Titan or a Cutlass, then that's great. Half of my friends have a Titan or a Cutlass. Actually, probably I'd say 80% of my friends have just a Titan or a Cutlass. Not everybody is insane and has a million ships. So, a lot of people that are into Star Citizen, they're like, oh yeah, the Cutlass or the Titan, these are the recommended ships. So when we recommend these ships, we recommend them because they're cheap. We look at this Cutlass Black for what it does: 46 cargo. It's big multi-crew, lots of guns. Titan, if you don't have friends to play with, Titan is like 8 cargo, I think, and great fighting ship. These can run the early missions. They can do cargo trading. They can do all that stuff. So these are the ships we recommend, and $100 initial price and $100 now. Price isn't really going up on these. And thank goodness, we want CIG to keep some value, some stepping stones that are easy, logical progression. The problem is when you get into this Cutlass steel, you're comparing it against the black. Now, my first mistake that I see that CIG did is in the fact they just said, yeah, the steel is basically the black. And that doesn't make a lot of sense because you've got a lot more people in here. I mean, a lot more people with all the jump seats, all the everything else. The brochure talks about having better weapons. The brochure talks about having better armor and all these things. I think that that's a fact on the Q&A. Once we get the actual, probably Q&A two, I think that they're probably going to backpedal some of that and say, hey, this is going to have this, is going to have that. I think that that's where the change is going to come in. But with the black components, it's kind of crappy. But let's flip it around because we have this steel, all right? We have the black. I personally don't have a black. I upgraded my black to a blue some time ago, and that's sitting at $175. So anyone that was expecting this to come out under $175, I think that's completely insane. Like, why would CIG? Even I could see $200 war bond or $200 with like, you know, $20 off war bond, so you can get it for 180 or something like that. You want to be able to give an upgrade path for these other Cutlass owners. So I never expected it to come out less than a $200 ship. Just absolutely didn't. In fact, I figured it was probably going to be, a 210 ship instead of 235. I kind of figured it was going to be around there, but um, I can see why they did 235, and I think it's a tactical choice. So let's compare this. So we got our Cutlass steel here, right? And let's compare that to the Vanguard Hoplite, because let's compare like to like. Get the black out of your mind for a few minutes because people get salty on the price when they think about the black. Let's compare the steel to the Hoplite. They are both $235. Here's the thing. If they bring the steel in and it's a new ship and it's 235 and it's got a lot more guns, all that stuff, and it's way cheaper, what about you're going to get people with their hoplites that are just going to melt their hoplites. Like tons of people are going to melt their hoplites and move over to a steel, right? If they're about the same price, they're going to keep them. They're going to keep them there. Um, they serve different roles. They both have a, a troop deployment role, okay? But the steel has a uh, uh, a lot more ground cover. So the steel has a lot more guns. It could provide a lot more ground cover. Now, I agree with almost everybody. 18 jump seats is pretty insane. I would have liked to have seen them have less jump seats, like a dozen jump seats, and then, provided a couple SCU of cargo. But then let's look at the Vanguard doesn't have cargo. The Prowler, which is way more, doesn't have cargo. It's not until the Valkyrie that you actually get any cargo. So that again, if they put cargo on it and they gave it less jump seats, but still more than the hoplite, then you've got more jump seats, more ground cover, and cargo. It's again a no-brainer to go from the hoplite to that. So I think that's kind of more of a balancing issue. They're trying to keep these ships kind of single purpose. They're not really cargo ships. They're designed for having a bunch of people in them, not a bunch of people trying to maneuver around boxes and everything else. And you think about it, that makes sense. You don't want to have your people trying to get around boxes, because you've stacked a bunch of boxes of your ship for whatever reason. You want people to have access to what they're going to do. So you've got that. Now at this price, 235, yeah, that's that might be high, but let's compare that. Okay, so we've got a Valkyrie, so it's 375. Okay, so that Valkyrie, so the next one up, that's $140 more. Well, now let's compare this. You can have a Cutlass Red and a Cutlass Steel. So what I'm saying is people are saying, oh, it sucks versus the Valkyrie. Okay, well, if you can have a Cutlass Red and a Cutlass Steel, I mean, that allows you to essentially have a place to heal up guys and a place to, deploy a bunch of guys. So that is, you know, something to consider. That is, in the category a nice value. You could also do something similar, like say that with a hoplite. You could have a hoplite and a Cutlass Red. The only difference is the steel is going to be able to provide more ground cover. The hoplite's going to be able to provide more air cover. They're both valid. You see, so you don't invalidate the hoplite by introducing the steel, and I don't think the steel is invalidated by the hoplite being there for the same price. They perform slightly different roles. If you'd rather have more ground cover, go with the steel. If you'd rather have more air cover, go with the hoplite. It depends on what your org has. If you don't have a lot of people to fly, maybe like air support, then maybe you do want a hoplite. If you have more people to fly air support, you just want to be able to get in a big ship and the air support can be in and start knocking stuff down, or you can soften it up with, some big bomb or something and kind of soften things up and then roll in a bunch of people to kind of take out the stragglers. Cutlass Steel may work just great for you. There's different roles for the different ships. Now, if we go to a Prowler, obviously the most expensive alien tax, we're talking 440. Um, 1 to 2 crews, 16 soldiers. It's got stealth. It's got lots of firepower. It's got the cool shielding tech. I mean, Prowler's just a specialized ship. So, I can see the Prowler being expensive, especially the alien tax, all that stuff. The Valkyrie's a military ship. You're talking the Cutlass is usually used by, small groups. Like they're not well funded. So at its price point, a Cutlass and a Red is, so we're talking 135 and 235, so it's 370, and you're talking 375. So you're $5 cheaper for a Cutlass Steel and a Cutlass Red versus a Valkyrie. Valkyrie is going to be your military organizations, your well-funded orgs. They're going to have the heaviest armored ships. They're going to have the most air support. Nothing's going to invalidate the Valkyrie. It's a great drop ship. So I think your well-funded orgs are going to have Valkyries and Prowlers. I think your hoplites and your steel are going to go for more budget orgs, where people have less ships to essentially fill in the roles. And then, you've got options like Cutlass Red and things like that. So when you compare, this Cutlass Black and this Cutlass Steel, it looks like this is insanely out of value. But when you compare the steel to everything else in its class, the steel is not overpriced. So that's essentially where I'm at. Uh, you know, Feel free to leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Am I wrong on this? But Yeah, I think the only big mistake that CIG made on this, I think people were expecting the pricing to be too low. They're expected to be closer to Cutlass Black pricing. They should have done more of a focus of the steel versus, a Valkyrie or a Prowler, or even compare it to a Hoplite, instead of having comparison be with the black. By just going to the Q&A and saying the components are the same as the black, I think that's the big marketing goof on this. They should have, just initially said, hey, this is going to have, better armor. This is going to have a bigger power plant. It's going to have, better quality components. Maybe it has a couple of military grade components on it or something like that. They should have had something on there where they said, and all the extra guns and all the extra seats. And then they should have called out, it doesn't have any cargo, but it doesn't need cargo because it needs to have more space available for people to maneuver around inside the ship, get in and get out quickly, things like that. So I think that was more of the mistake. Hopefully CIG corrects it in Q&A too. And maybe they don't. Maybe they just say, yeah, hey, Cutlass Steel is basically just a Cutlass Black with a bunch of stuff. I think that would be a bad way of running it, because I think the steel is going to be a little bit easy to pop, but the strategies you can employ with it are a little bit different. If that's the case, what I would do is I would not bring the steel down into a hot landing zone. I would bring the steel down, drop off troops nearby the LZ, let the troops start maneuvering up, and then bring my steel up to apply, some covering fire and things as my troops are nearing the LZ. As my troops are basically getting into the hot area, that's when I would start really, laying down that fire. Or, maybe you can just kind of come in and say, yeah, hey, we're going to fly this thing over and try to shoot as many of these, guys on the towers and stuff as we can to kind of provide you guys some cover as you guys go rushing up and zerging in. And I mean, that sounds like a valid, Drake style aficionado strategy of, having a bunch of raiding marauders kind of zerging into the place while, this insane gunship with, guns in every single direction comes up and just starts, doing a death blossom above there, trying to nuke as many people as possible. So, that's my thoughts. Way more guns than a hoplite, and way cheaper than a Prowler or a Valkyrie for its role. Cutlass Steel isn't actually a bad value. I just think the marketing of it, comparing it too much to a Cutlass Black, was the problem. So yeah, again, let me know what you think. Give me some comments, and yeah, peace, everybody.